Happy 2021 everyone, and welcome back to Baby Bump Vlog, where one of the only things that we've taken over from 2020 apart from COVID is the immense noise that this flat generates. So please buckle up. I'm sorry for the noise. Dawid is treating it as ambient noise at this point. He's just sleeping right through it. It's like white noise to him. So hopefully you can do the same, and welcome back. I'm a mother to 2 boys. It's just incredible. Dawid was born on 29 December 2020, and I'm so thankful that he was one of the last silver linings of the year that was 2020. And just as I said on Victor's birth vlog, you never know with any birth what to expect. It just really is a roller coaster ride. No doula or prior experience, your mom, nobody can prepare you for each individual birth. And I really saw it this time. It was incredible. I am so thankful to God that my son is healthy and that I'm healthy, but it really was a roller coaster ride. And yes, this is my first vlog of 2021, my first vlog since becoming Dawid's mommy. And I will be putting out a vlog as to how I'm feeling, what it's like being a mother to 2 boys, what I felt like after my, spoiler alert, cesarean section. Yep, I had an emergency C-section. So I will be going through all of that, what it's like breastfeeding. I'll be going through all of that in my next vlog. But as for today is all about Dawid and his birth story. And speaking about Dawid, he is just the cutest baby. I call him Lukie. So in Afrikaans, Lukie translates to little lion. And his powerful little voice sounds like a little lion, and I have an absolute affinity for lions. I always call myself lioness, so I've got this great affinity for lions, and Chris is my lion. And I always called Victor my little raptor, but Victor knows he's also my little lion. But yes, Dawid's pet name is Lukie, and he's just the cutest. And it's taken some time doing this vlog because not only is it just I'm drinking the whole experience of being a mom to a newborn in. It is just the most magical, beautiful thing, having something that was just inside of you, growing inside of you, with you in your arms. It's just magical, and I wanted to drink it in. And the last 2 days, however, I wanted to vlog, but Lukie is what we call mama fuss. So he just wants to be with mommy all the time. He loves smelling me, feeling me. It's so cute. Like when I lay him down to sleep and I look, then he actually does this with his hand to feel if I'm still lying next to him. So even if he smells me, if I put something there of myself, he still feels if I'm actually there. He's so sweet. So yes, today we are doing Dawid's birth vlog, and so I was scheduled to go into Steve Biko on the 28th of December 2020, and it was eerie. It was the most quiet I've ever seen a hospital in my life. And I was like, yeah, we got the hospital to ourselves, which was pretty cool. And I loved the fact that the halls were decked out. It was a Christmassy vibe. I love the festive season, as I've said. So for me, it was great. And Chris and I got to the labor ward. Thankfully, they let him in. They were like, yeah, help her with her 20 million bags. And as we approached the labor ward, and the security is like, okay, sir, you can't go any further. I just had to go through the mental prep I'd been doing for a few weeks in telling myself that, listen, this ain't gonna happen. You are gonna do this by yourself. You are going to give birth to Dawid by yourself, and Chris is not gonna be with you. And obviously I understand the pandemic and what we're going through, and that we have protocols and regulations in place to keep us all safe. However, I think, let me not go into why I felt some regulations are a bit skewed, because that's just not going to be part of this vlog. So I mentally prepared myself, I let it go, and I was like, Linus, you are doing this by yourself. So we say our goodbyes, and thankfully we had WhatsApp video call, which really was a lifesaver. It made me feel supported throughout the process of giving birth. Yeah, so it's bye-bye Chris and hello nurses. So we start the process of booking me in, and they start checking my vitals. They put the Doppler ultrasound machine on me to check out baby's heartbeat and just general checkup. And time goes by, they check my cervix, and the doctor says, you know what, we don't even need to do the whole balloon thing because your cervix seems ripe. We can just start with induction. And yeah, about 7 hours later, my induction started. That's the thing about public healthcare in South Africa. Yet again, not biting the hand that feeds me, just making a general note that you hurry up and wait. And in this case, it wasn't that the hospital was busy. There were really very little amount of people, even in the labor ward. But I don't know, it just is what it is. So anyway, my induction started at 4 that afternoon. I was there at 7 in the morning, just as a frame of reference. Nonetheless, everything went well. Like I said, I had a WhatsApp video call. I had so many books that I packed. I was busy with a really cool book on boundaries, which I'm currently reading, and it really is an eye-opener. I'll actually post that book on Baby Bump Vlogs Facebook and Instagram. Go check it out. It really is an interesting book, and it's helping me to reorganize my life and find the balance that I need, especially within my relationships with others and myself. So I'm reading, I'm chilling, I'm getting to know the other ladies in my room, and time progresses. At 4, I have my first shot of, and I would be lying if I tell you that I know what they gave me. I'm not sure. I know the internet is rife with the word Pitocin. So it could be Pitocin, but it might also be something else that I saw that public hospitals in South Africa use. So I'm not even going to speculate. I have no idea what they gave me. They just gave me like a clear solution. And I had my first shot at 4. And so they said that they'll be giving me 12 of those every 2 hours. So time progresses. You know, I'm trying to rest as much as possible. What was much different this time around is that I wasn't running up and down Steve Biko. I was in my ward. It's the time of COVID. I had no reason to be outside the ward. And yes, I did mobilize. I told the nurses whenever I'm not on the Doppler that, you know, I'd like to just walk around the actual ward, because I'm trying to bring on labor, but also it really helped me to mobilize. So my contractions really started becoming something at around 12 that evening. And by 2, it started becoming painful. And so now I'm on the phone with Chris. Shame he didn't even sleep. And so round about 2, 3, the pain really started. And I know on the social medias, I posted a photo and said that those immense and intense contractions were for 5.5 hours, but I went through my phone and I saw that I started having really, really hectic and bad contractions since around 3:30 that morning. So, it's just an out-of-body experience. The feeling you have when going through contractions is just an out-of-body experience. I don't really know what I could say about it, because no words could ever describe what you go through during that time. And so with Victor's birth, I opted in not having any painkillers. However, this time the nurse actually came to me and she was like, I didn't know that the machine not only monitors baby's heartbeat, but also monitors your contractions and the level of pain that you're going through. So you can't even lie to the nurses to get pain medication, because they know the kind of pain you're going through. And yes, pain is relative, but they do have an actual measurement of what you're going through. So the nurse came to me and she's like, we've been having a discussion in our little room and we think it's best that you take something for pain. And so this time around, I was injected with pethidine. And I know, up until this moment, I still feel like, pethidine. But yes, it is what it is, and that did happen. So after the pethidine injection, I have one of the best naps I've ever had. And time wasn't even part of any construct in my mind. I wouldn't be able to tell you for how long the nap was, and it also wasn't actual sleep. I was present, but I was not actually present enough to feel the pain. But it was just the best nap ever, and when I wake up, it's just more of the same. These intense contractions, where if you look at the picture on Baby Bump Vlogs social media, you'll see that it's intense contractions that are spaced apart in the same way that they would be when you are like 9 or 10 centimeters dilated, whereas at that point I was about 4 centimeters dilated. So it just was unnatural, and only now I realize that yes, induction, many times they say that your contractions are much more painful and intense. So yes, it makes sense that that happened. So at around 1:15 on the 29th of December, the doctor gets to my bed, and as soon as that happens, there's just this immense hive of activity around the bed. She calls other doctors and nurses and people, and it's just everybody is talking amongst themselves and freaking out. And they're looking at the Doppler machine and they're looking at me and they're like, da, 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 and I just hear sentences thrown around like emergency C-section, book her right now. I don't care about the elective C-sections, book her right now. And I just hear this, and the doctor says that, listen, your baby's heartbeat is up to 183 beats per minute. It also went up to 188. And she's like, we're going to have to do an emergency C-section and we need you to sign this right now. So this is literally one of my biggest fears that I've ever had in my entire life. I spoke about it in Victor's birth vlog. I am deathly, no pun intended, but deathly afraid of any form of surgery. And I was just so scared of getting a C-section. Not even of the pain, like I didn't realize at that point the pain you go through, but I was always scared I was gonna die on the table while they were doing the C-section. I literally always saw that in my mind. So I'm mentally not dealing at this point, and I call Chris, and obviously I'm like, we have to do what is in the best interest of our son. We have to. So yes, I signed, and now they're putting like these other bands around my arm to say she's got gestational diabetes, asthma, blah blah blah, and fetal distress. And obviously, love is sacrifice. So I'm like, obviously I'm doing this. I want my son to be okay. But just on the realsies, I was freaking out. I had always had this feeling that I was going to die on the operating table if there was ever the moment that I was going to have a C-section. And it was happening. And it all happened so quickly. And then they're like, we need to take your phone. And I'm like, okay, world, au revoir. Bye, Chris. So it just happened so quickly. They took my phone. They took me to theater. And just before that, I'd had lunch. Literally, I had lunch at 1. So, but I didn't have a lot of lunch. But I was like, let me try and forget about the pain by eating. A typical Margaret thing, by the way. Eating the pain away. And in more ways than one. So I get there and the doctor asks the nurse, did she eat? And the nurse is like, no. And I'm like, sorry, doctors, yes. I actually just had fish with mash. So, And they're like, ah! So they freak out and they injected me with something so that I don't vomit. And the next experience was just so surreal. It was like something out of the movies. So how did I get the black eye? Well, it's simple. It was 2020. Nonetheless, they roll me in to the theater on the bed I was on, and they're like, okay, will you assist us in getting off this bed and onto the theater bed? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But okay, nobody tells me there's this huge hole as a part of the operating table. But they put cloth over it, so I can't see it. And I'm over and almost under, because what happened was my knee went inside the hole and I just moved forward, like I flipped forward. And it was like, I don't know, this doctor was a superhero. She literally jumped 2 meters from where she was standing forward to try and intercept my fall. And I hit my eye against her shoulder. Thank God for that doctor. She is just, wow. I have no idea what the doctor's name is, but it was one of the 4 doctors that was in theater that day, and thank God for her, because I literally almost fell off the table because I don't know, I just wasn't that mobile. My knee went in that hole and I just went forward, and I couldn't even feel really my arms making any effort to go forward to even save myself or the baby. And yeah, so that's how I ended up with a black eye. And just literally minutes after that, they start prepping my back, and I'm like, doctor, please remember that I broke my back last year in a car accident. I broke T2 to T9. She's like, thank you for telling me. And so they give me the epidural, and I don't know, I watched many vlogs where people are freaking out about the epidural, but it really wasn't that bad for me. I forgot to say that as soon as I had signed the release form to say that yes, obviously I give my permission to have a C-section, etc., just literally the moment I'd signed it, my water broke. So that was so freaky and weird. But the doctor was like, even though your water broke, it's going to take too long, from 4 centimeters to 10 centimeters. Your son is in distress, we're going. So I had the epidural. It was not that bad, not as bad as I expected. I don't know, my mind wasn't in that place. My mind was literally in the place of, am I going to survive this? Am I literally going to die on the operating table? So I don't know, they gave 2 injections in my back, and then the prepping started, where they, feel and touch your legs, and they're like, can you feel this? Can you feel this? And it feels like they tugging at you. And they put up like a divide so that I couldn't see. And I've heard many people say that, oh yeah, I looked in the light and I could pretty much see what was going on. Well, that was the opposite of what I wanted to do. I'm one of the most inquisitive people that I know. And I know everyone because I'm inquisitive. But I just had no inclination towards looking into the light or looking into the light. I just closed my eyes and I was praying. I already started praying the moment they started tugging me. And the doctor's like, wow, look at this responsible patient with her asthma pump clenched in her hand. And I'm like, well, yes, doctor, it's always been my fear of dying on an operating table for lack of oxygen because I have asthma. And she's like, you're a very responsible patient. I'm like, thank you, doctor. And so they're tugging and feeling, I'm praying, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm tilting towards one side, and I'm like, am I hallucinating? And the doctors start laughing. They're like, no, we actually are tilting you to the left-hand side because we have to do that for the C-section. I'm like, okay. And I just started praying off, from the get-go, as I said. But the next moment, I just hear a baby crying. And that's why I'm calling him Lukey, because he was just like a little lion roaring. It was so surreal because I just heard this cry, and they're like, congratulations, mama. And I'm like, I never realized you've already cut me open. And it just happened so quickly. They were still tugging and feeling, and the next moment I heard his cry. So that was surreal. And kudos to the doctors, amazing surgeons at Steve Biko. I really thank you so much for giving birth to my son and for helping him and for helping me. So yes, from the first time I heard my son until they left the room with him and I actually physically saw him for the first time, about 15 minutes passed, in which they closed me up and they did his abhar and all his vitals were checked, etc. And that was so much different from the first time I'd given birth, because the first time it was natural birth, he was born, and they immediately gave Victor to me and he latched. So I had that physical touch and that rush of oxytocin, whereas this time it was just so clinical and so different, because he was just there, the other side of the veil, literally. And I didn't see him like initially, and I just heard him, and it was weird because obviously they put you out like with your arms to the side. It's the strangest position to be put in. You're so vulnerable. I felt vulnerable. And obviously you can't move, and you physically can't move, even if you didn't just have this huge incision of your abdomen. You literally can't move. You're injected and not able to move. So you hear your baby crying, but you're not able to move and mobilize into action to give him the breast. So it's such a weird feeling. It is, I don't know, for myself, emotionally speaking, it was not a great feeling. I understand that it is an emergency C-section for a reason, and I praise God that my son is okay and that I survived the operation. However, just being realsies with y'all, it is such a dichotomy hearing your child cry and not being able to do anything about it, because just biologically speaking, that is exactly what you do. When you hear your baby crying, you give them the breast, they latch, or if you're not breastfeeding, whatever, you try to do something about the situation, and not being able to was just not cool. But so that happened, and then about 15 minutes later they walked past where I was obviously laying and not seeing anything, and they showed my son to me and they left the room. And that was cool. I thought, you're such a beautiful little boy, but I don't know where they were taking him or what was happening. That wasn't cool. And also, it was just so uncertain. At some point I heard blood loss, and I literally told the doctors, am I dying? And they're like, no, we always ask one another how much blood was lost. Everybody has blood loss. But yeah, it was so funny because I literally felt myself becoming dizzy when I heard her asking the other doctor, blood loss? I thought that I was actually hearing myself busy dying. So that was pretty freaky. So Dawid left the theater and they took me to another room where I laid for some period of time, probably half an hour, where they just observe you and see if you're going to start bleeding or go into shock or whatever. So I was just lying there and thinking that, wow, this is a walk in the park. Like, I survived this. I don't have any pain. This is amazing. And they take me after that to the ward where I would be recuperating. And yeah, Dawid's nowhere to be found. And I'm just lying there thinking, like, where's my son? When is he coming? You know, when your partner's with you, at least your partner can follow the nurses around or ask them or whatever, but just not being mobile and lying there and not knowing anything, I really did not like that at all. And so I just lay there and yeah, didn't know what was going on. I didn't have my phone, obviously, because they took my phone. And so about an hour and a bit passed, and the nurse came and she said that Chris had called on the landline and asked if I was okay and everything. And so I was like, yay. And about just right after that, they brought Dawid to me, and it was just beautiful. And the nurse helped him latch, and they said that his blood sugar was a bit low, and yeah, at that point his blood sugar was 1.8. So a doctor came from the neonatal section, and she came downstairs and she said, well, that's pretty normal for a newborn, but she'll give him some formula to help him. And in that period of time, it also dropped to 1.0. So they gave him some formula in a syringe. So thankfully, Dawid stabilized. I'm so thankful for that. I really thought that it might be the same kind of situation as when Victor was born, and that Dawid would be dealing with hypoglycemia and that they would be keeping him there. But thankfully, that was not the case. He was right by my side, and that was amazing. So they gave him some formula and they put him on the bed with me, and I was able to breastfeed him. And so they just allowed him to lie with me, and that was really, really awesome. So for a few hours after a C-section, you're not allowed to have any fluids or food. So it's just the way it goes. And as time goes by, I start feeling that, okay, yeah, this is real. This is a real thing. And what followed next is something that I'm not able to articulate. I don't think there is a word in existence, or that could be put into existence, that can truly capture what I felt. The pain I felt that evening was worse, absolutely worse than natural childbirth. The pain I felt after having a C-section was just, I don't know, pain is relative. I have broken my back, 5 ribs, my clavicle in one go. That was immensely painful. Natural childbirth had been immensely painful, but just for some reason I feel that the pain I felt with the C-section was unbearable. It just was unbearable. So they make their rounds, the sisters, and they give us medication that evening, and I was wailing. There's just no other way to put it. I was wailing. And so that was a really difficult night. I didn't sleep, so that's night 2 that I didn't sleep. And Dawid was awake, so the nurse comes around, and obviously at that point they'd already taken him and put him next to my bed in a crib thingy, a mobile crib. And I hear him crying, so I pressed the buzzer because I didn't know how it goes, like what actually happens after a C-section. I'd never even Googled it because I never thought that I would get one. I was like hoping that I wouldn't. And I'm like, nurse, please help, the baby's crying. Can you give him to me so I can breastfeed him? And she's like, no, just get up and feed him. And I'm like, okay, I will, but could you just show me how I'm supposed to get up, because I don't want to tear. And she's like, just get up. So yeah, that was kind of scary. Another scary thing, because I literally didn't even know how to move. Like, because I didn't research it prior, I really had no idea how to move to get up to feed my baby. So that was scary. I was really scared that I was gonna, I don't know, open up the stitches or something. I don't know. And that did happen to one of the girls that was lying across from me. The next day she went back in because her stitches had gone loose. I don't know what she did, but that happened to her. Wow, that evening was hectic. That was painful. Mobilizing after surgery, but mobilizing after a C-section is just, I don't know what to say. I hope that the energy that's fallen during this vlog will literally just convey exactly the feeling I had that evening. It was just, it was the worst. It just was the worst. I can't put into words the experience I had, like the pain I felt, the energy in that room. It was just, I don't know what to say. So yeah, the next morning came. It's the morning of the 30th, and we're there. They moved us around, and so we go to another room in the ward, and that room was just the last straw.